Foreigners working with Jamaicans built a profitable Jamaica omnibus service, a profitable public transportation system, killed by our leaders. We inherited a profitable Air Jamaica. Coming from the colonials and Jamaicans working together, we built Air Jamaica, and it was profitable until we take it over and kill it. We killed our airports, and now it's in the hands of foreigners. We killed our ferry, gone. We killed our rail service, gone. We killed our water system. All the major water reservoirs we have were built by the colonials and not by us. We killed our thriving agricultural industries, banana, coffee, cocoa, you name it. We killed it. It's better we have our own people with dual citizenship come here and help with than to have foreigners from our local leaders take away everything from we. It's a basic mathematics we have to look at here. All right, good evening and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this, what I hope is going to be a very interesting live discussion. Please remember to like and share and subscribe so we can spread the word. This is going to be an interesting conversation on a very, very topical subject in Jamaica right now. Most of you know that, Jamaica has a two-party system, and those who currently occupy the Parliament of Jamaica as government and opposition are once again engaged in another divisive, distracting, and deceptive exchange. This time it's about dual citizenship. And I'm kind of phrasing it around the idea of a dual citizen as a prime minister. As usual, the hypocrisy is thick, very thick, and the unproductive chatter is loud as both sides trade insults and accusations and counter accusations to make their own case to the Jamaican people as they seek to, form the next government. Tonight we'll step back a bit though, and take a look at the bigger picture, the real issue. What is it that's really happening in Jamaica? And as usual, I'm going to offer to you the UIC's solution to the problem. As you know, the UIC is known as the Education Party, and we pride ourselves on always looking for and finding solutions to help us as a nation to navigate the challenges of nationhood. The days of my leader, Barnia, you might remember those days when they used to argue and one party would say my leader Barney, and they have a song around that and trying to get us to feel patriotic around my leader Barney versus your leader Nabania. And you've heard slogans like Black Man Time Now, which is to play on the whole racial divide and the lighter skin and the darker skin. Then you had a period of Woman Time Now, where in order to get your edge in the political game, you play on the woman factor, you put a woman as your president for your party, and you push that and see if you can get a win. Then you had another time when it's young people time now, you find a prime minister or a prime minister subject who is born after 1962, when you say young people time now. So they're always trying to find their edge. So this time is no different than before. But I'm suggesting that we must give way to the one Jamaica time now, the good governance time now. The time to unite, the time to liberate, the time to empower our people, to enrich our economy. And so to help me with our discussion tonight, I've invited a number of persons from across the diaspora and locally here in Jamaica to look at the topic and to examine it closely and see if we can find some common ground. And most importantly, if we can make the discussion a little bit more productive than what it has been so far. So I'm going to welcome our panelists and ask them to each introduce themselves. In 30 seconds, tell us a little about themselves, their name, their location, and just about anything they feel like saying to us. So who will want to go first? Let's see. Let's start with the females on the call. Empress, Zaria, you want to go first? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yes, thank you. And good evening. My 30 seconds is I'm Empress Zaria, aka Karen, and I'm coming to you from Montego Bay right now. Recent returnee from the U.S., Florida, Central Florida, the Ocala area, and so just coming back and wanting to get involved in our government, and I'm happy to be able to be a part of this discussion.
Wonderful. Good to have you on, Miss Empress Zaria. Lovely name, by the way. And let's hear from the next young lady on the call, Madame Carrie Ann Walker.
I do apologize for my tardiness. In any event, it's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to the discussion. I think I may have a lot to contribute as well because it's a very interesting topic.
Excellent. And
Um,
where are you calling in from, Carrie Ann?
I'm calling in from Brampton, Ontario, Canada, and again, a diasporan, came here closely 40 years ago, but I've always been recognizing Jamaican as my number one home in every sense of the way. And again, feeling as though, although I'm in Canada, Canada is a sanctuary, and I've always felt like an outsider. Really, it's never really home, but home is where the heart belongs, and my birth land is my home.
Wonderful. Excellent. We're looking forward to hearing your input. And the great Mr. Duff, we're interested.
Good evening again, everyone, and thanks for inviting me on to this podcast. I appreciate it. I am one of those older Jamaican that actually I came to Canada probably more than 50 years ago. I stopped counting a long time. So came here as a child, grew up here, and connected back to my roots from about, I would say, 1982-ish onward. From then, I've been returning religiously until I would say COVID, which I got stuck down there for about 9 months with my family, and still I'm eager to return. I am, very much interested in this conversation because it may not necessarily affect me directly myself, but it could affect any one of my offsprings, which is very important to me and to some of them. Looking forward to this evening's conversation and my input and to bring it across to everyone. Thanks for my
Wonderful.
invitation.
Thank you, Mr. Duff. And I can tell you're going to have a lot to say tonight. So looking forward to that. Um, Mr. The Real Patriot, welcome, sir. Introduce yourself to us tonight.
All right. Good evening, everyone. The Real Patriot, as the name suggests. Um, Patriot, Jamaica for me is first. It's always first. I'm apolitical in nature. Um, Not necessarily any particular party. I'm Jamaica first, and whatever benefits Jamaica. I was particularly interested in this conversation and this discussion because it referenced diaspora, right? And I believe the diaspora has a very important role to play if Jamaica is going to get to its full potential. So I've listened to the JLP's take, the PMP's take, and the UIC. I haven't heard it much yet, so I was really gung ho to join this panel to hear Mr. Patterson's view on it and probably answer some questions that I might have. So thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. And you're in the right place, sir, because tonight we want to hear everyone's opinion, any facts you might have, any suggestions you might have, any questions you might have on the subject. It doesn't matter what your affiliation is. I want you to be very open, transparent, if you will. Ask any questions and don't feel compelled to agree with me, disagree with anything that I have to say, and share your views. And let's see if we can find some consensus in the process. Welcome. Oh, by the way, Mr. Patriot, where are you calling in from?
Oh, I'm calling from Canada, Alberta, Canada. And
Beautiful.
let me just preface this to say, as the name suggests, I'm a patriot. So don't expect to hear any standard English over here. Expect some patois jumping out in the middle of the thing. So from time to time.
Tuesday.
No problem. We are multilingual on this platform. We welcome English, Patois, Spanish, French, you name it. The problem is some people might not understand you whether you're speaking French or Spanish, but we shall do our best to communicate as Jamaicans. Mr. Glenn Bishop, where are you calling in from, sir? And tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I am the real patriot that is still being patriotic to the land, the soil. So I am native of Jamaica, living in one of the first free villages established in Jamaica in Bethel Town, Westmoreland.
Really?
So here to share and looking forward to a very fruitful conversation.
Beautiful, Mr. Bishop. I didn't know that you were in Westmoreland. I've seen you on social media and stuff, but I didn't know that you were in Betheltown, Westmoreland, where my good friend Mr. Winston Wright is our MP candidate over there. So good to have you on. Well, let me just say big up yourself to all the people on the live, wherever you are around the world, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you are. I see some of your names in the content area here. Mr. Ransford McLean. Pleasant Sunday to you as well, my fellow Uniter. Miss Patricia Burgess, happy Sunday to you as well. Big up yourself, Mr. Wayne Noble, always on target, promoting UIC around the world. Bless up, family. And I see Mr. Wilbert Myers as well. I think you mean you guys. Yes, I think you mean you guys, eh? Yeah, Mr. Myers, fix your right up there, here, from gays to guys. And as you know, we have nothing against anyone, but we want to have accuracy in our communication. I don't know who the PMP is, though. I don't know who PMP is. You can tell us who that is or what that is. And then I see Mr. Ask the Bus Driver. Welcome to you as well, sir or ma'am. Not sure which is which. Big up yourself, Faye Brown, my good friend from, I think, from over in Kingston there. Good to see you on as well. Now, I want to begin by saying, and this is very important because we, as a people, we have succumbed to this quite easily. And I want to see if I can begin now, and what I've been saying for years. We should not allow ourselves to be tricked yet again by the division, the distraction, and the deception that comes with the divide and conquer system of partisan politics that we have been taught to practice, that we have been led to practice. It has destroyed us mentally because, as you see in our political conversations, many persons cannot reason. If their party said the sky is green, even if their own eyes tell them the sky is green, is blue, they're going to say it's green. And if on the other side, if their party says the sky is orange, even if they look up and say that the sky is blue, they're still going to say the sky is orange. And so I want to discourage that right here. I want us to take off any partisan hats that we have and put on the Jamaica hat and maintain that going forward so that we can think clearly and rationally. Otherwise, the strategy of divide and conquer will continue to conquer us as a people. Jamaica's politics is built on 3 pillars: division, tribal, distraction, take our eyes off what's really happening, and deception, so that a few people can extract our wealth. The goal, it seems, and I'm sure it is for us to flip-flop between 2 controlled opponents or become supporters of one or the other, so that the real puppet masters behind the scene can remain firmly in control. But I want to say to you tonight that the real issue to me, and I hope it is to you, is whether or not something is wrong with our governance model, the one that we have been following for so many years. Something is wrong with that model. And if something is wrong, what should we do about it to ensure we have a more effective system of governance? Notice I'm not talking yet about dual citizenship. I'm talking first about the real issue, and you're going to see how the problem of dual citizenship weaves into that. And so I want to get your first impression, each of you, on what I've just said. Do you see the same thing, or do you see something else? Let's begin with Mr. Bishop.
All right. I'm disappointed by the fact that you would have both sentiments wrapped into one question, because I am for Jamaica, and I think the system of governance that we have employed in Jamaica since our alleged independence is the reason for the state of affairs in Jamaica. And with that said, it is clearly flawed. Now, the dual citizenship issue is just one of the flaws in the system. So I will let that alone be the comment that I make on your statement until we delve into or further into the conversation.
Beautiful, sir. I really appreciate that. Excellent commentary. Let me hear what your thoughts are, Empress Zaria, on what I've said so far. What are your thoughts on that? Put that into context for yourself.
The model of politics that you have described is very obvious. From obviously, I mean, I'm not sure if everyone on the island's perspective, but it's very clear to those of us who have at least left the island and seen something that would give us an idea of what good governance at least should look like. Although it's not practiced, we have this idea, so that it hit me in the face as soon as I came in and wanted to return to Jamaica and wanted to get involved, and just not being able to find any sensible way of doing that, because to me there was no avenue to even engage with the government. Everything is just kind of happening without the engagement of the people. So I concur, I agree. When we're talking about dual citizenship, you may be surprised at what my perspective is on that.
Well, we're coming to that. We're coming to it. I just want to set the stage first, because for me, I like to approach problems from first principle, not just to jump on the problem, but to see where it's coming from. Let me hear now, Mr. Duff, my characterization of the basic challenge and the basic issue, which will lead into our discussion on dual citizenship. How do you view what I've just said? Is that in keeping with your own way of thinking, or is there another dimension to it that you want to bring to the table?
Yes, it is within the keeping of what, with what you're saying. I would like to add to the fact that most diaspora, that travels, lived abroad, travel, even for a short visit, we all tend to have the same 98.9% issues to deal with when we return. So it is an obvious issue and problem throughout the entire country. What have they done about it? Nothing. What do they intend to do about it? Little or nothing. But they love the repentance that is coming back. And contributory factors like that will not, it cannot fix a country, because we're not a cash cow. We're human with problems that needs resolution. Without those, we cannot, we will always have what we're having, from this discussion and beyond.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mr. Duff, for that. And let's hear from Ms. Carrie Ann Walker. Based on what I've said, what is your response to that? Can you hear Ms. Walker? Oh, we can't hear you because you're muted. Okay, so it looked like her microphone is not coming on there. All right, well, let's take a little commercial break now. We're going to talk about today's sponsor. So our sponsor for today is Be Sweet Jamaica. Can you see that? Be Sweet Jamaica. And by way of full disclosure, this is my company that actually produces honey. And I'm told I need to put up a sponsorship since we're sponsoring this particular one. So our sponsor is Charlotte's Be Sweet Jamaican Honey. It's real, pure, raw, organic honey, straight from the hive to the bottle. No additives, no preservatives, no heating or processing, just 100% pure, raw, organic honey delivered around the world to our local and loyal customers and international customers in USA, UK, Canada, France, Cayman, Barbados, and Jamaica. Go to bsweetjamaica.com to order yours today.
Excellent.
Nice
I
job.
believe I'm ready to go whenever you're ready, Mr. Patterson.
Wonderful. So now let's hear from Ms. Carrie and Walker, your thoughts on my earlier introduction.
Well, I just want to recap. Your question was, is the model of governance working for Jamaica? That was, I believe, your initial question. And
Yes.
my response to that is, firstly, Jamaica by land is a very rich and resourceful island. It's one of we are blessed infinitely with food, water, you name it. So the question goes to: are the Jamaican people thriving? And
Mhm.
if what is happening to Jamaicans abroad and at home that is making it difficult for them to prosper economically, and that will speak to the model, because the land has given us lots of blessings. So why are we not using our resources to do better? Speaks to our leaders, those who are in power and authority. What are their decisions and how it's impacting Jamaicans as a whole?
Wonderful. All right. Thank you for that, Miss Walker. Quite a important mouthful there that we have to digest a bit. Mr. Patriot, what are your thoughts?
Well, for the question, if we think Jamaica is achieving our full potential, definitely not. And that's evident by looking at other countries who have got independence later than us or a little bit earlier than us and
Mm-hmm.
seem to be doing better. I don't think we. I constantly hear you mention Singapore from time to time, but I don't even want to go as far as Singapore because it's like Singapore is like light years ahead of us. I'd probably just say the Caribbean. I don't think we're anywhere to be proud of when we stack up against some of our Caribbean neighbors. And Jamaica is so rich with talent. We seem to strive in like athletics and all that type of stuff, but we need to strive more economically. I think that's where we fall down, and I think a lot of it has to do with governance, as you mentioned. Um, Governance is very important, and I think one of the reasons is that I don't think our best and our brightest are engaged in the process of governance because we have a lot of brain drain because of the diaspora thingy, and hence one of my main thing is we need all Jamaicans to make Jamaica what it should be. We can't have 20% of Jamaicans participating to put Jamaica on the map as it should be, or as bright as it should be on the map. We
Mm-hmm.
need the participation of 100% Jamaicans. So that's where I take it.
Thank you. I'm going to use what you have said to kind of segue into the next part of our discussion here. At the heart of our system problem, to me, is the origin, listen carefully, the origin, the design, and the effect of the so-called constitution. And I say so-called because Jamaica doesn't really have a constitution. We have what is called an order in council, which is like an order from the British monarchy, which our leaders have accepted and implemented and so on. But I believe that the heart of our problem begins with looking at the origin of that constitution, looking at the design of that constitution, and then looking at the effects of that constitution. If we don't understand our past, we're doomed to repeat it, and we have been repeating it since the dawn of African slavery, the slave trade in Africa to the New World. We have allowed ourselves we have allowed others actually to do our thinking for us, our planning for us, our organizing for us, and our directing for us. When we first agreed to catch and trade our fellow Africans for European goods, and this is very serious. This trend, which began as far back as then, has continued to today, where our leaders tend to be rubber stamps for other people. They tend to just take what is suggested to them or what is given to them or what is commanded of them, and they just apply it to our people. They don't think about the cause and effect relationship. They don't think about the context in which it is being applied, our history, our background. They just apply it. For example, when I talk about Singapore, some people would say, Singapore, they have a different culture from we, so you can't just talk. And they have a point to raise that. And I have a comeback for that. But why don't we apply that to everything that we do? Think about the cultural significance, the historical significance, before we just go ahead and carte blanche, bam, drop this bomb with people and then start to run with it. And then we have some serious, maybe unintended consequences on our leaders' part. But I believe the colonial powers, they knew what the consequences would be of insisting or directing or demanding that we follow a particular trend. So before I get now into the mechanics of that, I want to get your take on that thought. Do you agree with me that we need to look at the origin, the design, and the effect of the so-called constitution that we have, beginning with our forefathers agreeing to take European goods in exchange for robbing Africa of its young men and women? Have we been doing the same thing today, giving up our right to think, our right to plan, our right to organize and direct our affairs for ourselves by merely following the blueprint of some other people throughout our history to this point? Let me begin with you, Madam Empress, to jump in on this one.
You asked earlier about the flag behind me and
Yes.
context of what you're talking about, these constitution rules and guidelines that we are expected to just follow, everyone, and not forgetting that there are sovereign people that exist in the same plane that the politicians are governing, and they're being dragged into this vacuum that they're creating. The sovereign people, when you think about the Rastafarians, for example, if we were to consider branding, the concept of Rastafari is there's very few things that are made within that culture that benefits that culture. Everyone else benefits from the use of His Majesty's name, the colors of the Ethiopian flag. And so when these entities are dragged into the format of this constitution that doesn't benefit anyone but the colonialists, then we'll continue be forever at the mercy of the world and unable to kind of pull ourselves back up.
In fact, you'll see most of our things being made in China that we sell in our craft markets and stores. Anyone want to jump in now and just say something before I move on to the next part of our conversation? Anyone? Go ahead, Mr. Bishop.
Yes. So I want to say on the point of follow that all colonies or all countries that were previously colonies would have gotten the same constitution, the same document to start their journey. Now it is the people of America that made the respective amendments to the same framework constitution that we got. And that's how you'll hear them talk about the first, the second amendment. And these amendments are pivotal in highlighting the different direction that a country that decided to move firmly away from their colonial masters would have navigated, in contrast to a country like Jamaica that was still serving and is still serving colonial masters instead of the interest of the people of Jamaica. So I want to make that distinction that the problem cannot be the document that we started out with, even though it might be flawed because of time and maybe the amendments that our so-called leaders have made to that provisional constitution that we all got. I think even though it is the people that should squarely take the blame for the direction that our leaders are being allowed to take the country in their push to follow other societies. I'll take quickly, for example, the NIDS bill. When you look at something as a digital framework, and you look at the ecosystem surrounding it, we can use the financial system that we have now to make a contrast or to parallel what is going on. America spend time and they spend money on their military to ensure that they were the world power before they made the switch from the gold standard to what we have now, the fiat currency money standard, where the American dollar is the benchmark. They would have created the framework first to ensure that as soon as the countries of the world sign on to this policy and start accepting the dollar as the benchmark unit of purchase for goods internationally, they would come out on top. Now, when you look at this digital push now, America has done the same thing. They have done the same thing. They have spent years developing the internet framework to ensure that all of the internet, or maybe 80 to 90% of what we are calling today the internet, is owned by American companies. So when you move to this digital push, and this everything should be digital and on computers, these computers will have to be programmed. The software, the apps that we are using, they will have to be developed to see the need of the populace. Now, when we follow a country that spent years investing into this framework, and we are saying we are going to follow them and let all of our country follow this framework, we have to understand that we are allowing the colonization or the recolonization of our citizens based on this framework. So I think...
Hold on. I want us to deal with, you have raised a number of points here, some which I believe are accurate and some which I believe are not accurate. But I want us to not miss it because you're giving us so much to digest. First thing, you said that the Jamaican Constitution is not the problem, and you explain how other countries got the same constitution, not America, but others got the same constitution, and they have changed it. You're correct in the latter. Now, what you have to remember, in 1962, when Jamaica adopted the current constitution that we have, the people of Jamaica were highly uneducated. Like the people, the vast majority of people were highly uneducated. So they were not in a position to really direct their leaders. The leaders were in a very advantageous position to lead the people. If you go back and look at the footage, the Jamaican people were very happy and exuberant and jubilant about the change, the so-called independence, because they were ignorant. But you had people like Norman Washington Manley and Buster Manty. Norman Manley is a Rhodes Scholar, trained lawyer from England. And you had other members of the team who were equally well educated according to the standards of education. And they sat around the table. David Core, Mr. Siaga himself is a part of that conversation. And these people agreed to a constitution that would then guide the affairs of Jamaica. Now, if you compare what happened with Singapore, because Mr. Patriot, I love to talk about Singapore. Singapore got the same template. And if you go and look at the Singaporean constitution, you can't tell that they got the same template. Immediately, they moved to a republic. So they immediately got rid of the monarchy the moment they became an independent nation. That's number one. Because the monarchy, even if it's titular or symbolic, it is also mentally impactful. When you start your new country with a foreigner as your head of state, a white woman as your head of state for a largely black nation, the psychological impact is profound. And when they came to Jamaica and they landed and they walked on the red carpet and our leaders bowed to them and welcomed them into our parliament and put them to sit at the head of the parliament and carry the mace and put before them and say, you guys are Lord and gods and governors by their actions. This set the frame and tone for the rest of the Jamaican people who were largely uneducated, mostly illiterate, unconcerned and unaware about what governance really means. All they thought about was that we're now getting independence without even understanding what being independent meant. In fact, the same trick occurred in 1944 when they gave us the so-called right to vote, where we jumped for joy because, again, we misunderstood. We never realized that, wait a minute, this right to vote doesn't mean nothing if you don't have the right to decide who to vote for. And when the people in charge, those in the background, get to decide who can be nominated by virtue of the cunning that they have. Even today in Jamaica, we don't get to decide who is nominated in real terms. We get to decide which of the design nominees we get to vote for. So the same trickery continues to this very day. But the people of Jamaica were in no position. The people were in no position to stand up for themselves. They trusted Norman Manley, they trusted Michael Manley and their team. And today, now we have the ability to think clearly and rationally. And a big percentage of us decide that we still don't want to think. We still don't want to think for ourselves. We want to continue to allow two party to tell what we have to do. And if they say the sky is orange and it look blue to it, we still go and say it orange. And if they say the sky is green and it look blue to it, we still go and say green, because we have been mentally damaged to the point where we can no longer think and reason for ourselves, even though you have PhD people that do that, masters people that do that, lawyers that do that, doctors that do that, engineers that do that. And the point I'm making today now, that first constitution and the decisions of our first set of leaders and those they have trained down through the age, right to Mark and Andrew, have continued to apply that same mechanism that keeps us in the depressed mental, physical, psychological, and economical oppressed state that we're in. And that's what we're trying to get over. But good points. When I come back to you quickly, anybody want to jump on something that Mr. Bishop said? Go ahead, Mr. Patriot.
Yeah, so I want to agree with some of what Mr. Bishop had said and some of what you had said. I agree with Mr. Bishop that the Constitution is not the problem per se, right? The Constitution is a moving document. A lot of people, other countries got that same Constitution and they amend as they go along. I think the real problem is corruption. Because even if Jesus come write the Constitution and we have the corruption, it's still not gonna work. It's really corruption. If there's no corruption, there's enough money to go around for everybody, right? So I am not necessarily in favor of changing and throwing away the Constitution and getting everything brand new, but I'm in favor for getting all Jamaicans involved, like the diaspora people, because I feel like if we get anywhere, we need the participation of everybody. So there are parts of the Constitution that needs to be changed, and we need to strengthen up some laws where politicians and others can't slip through the loopholes in a corrupt way. So it's really corruption is our main holdback. And even Singapore, if Singapore wasn't so tough on corruption, trust me, Singapore wouldn't be as far as they are today.
Thank you. Okay.
So that's it.
Good point. Bear in mind, and when I say good point, doesn't mean I agree with you. I believe, you see, a constitution is your governing document. Exactly. Your constitution decides whether or not you have a framework that properly tackles corruption or a framework that encourages corruption. I'll give you one quick example. In our constitution, all of the senators are appointed by the heads of the two parties that governs the country. So 13 of the senators are appointed by the prime minister, 8 are appointed by the opposition leader. Because the prime minister is in a position to appoint those same senators to ministerial positions, they will hesitate to do anything to jeopardize that position. So they're going to be rubber stamps for the prime minister. On top of that, the prime minister, the sitting prime minister here, even tried to go further by getting them to sign undated resignation letters, so that, because when you appoint a senator, you can't remove them until the term is up, okay? So what he wanted to do is to make sure, on top of the weak constitution we have, he gave them a letter to sign to say, I resign, and all he has to do is to date it. So if any one of them step out of line, he is able to just cut them. Now, here's where he was undermining the constitution, which was already weak in its design. Now, the UIC's proposal for constitution is let's have elected senators who are elected independent of the prime minister by the parish, so that when them come to parliament, they can think and act and speak with independence and without any repercussions from the prime minister or whoever happens to occupy the executive. That's the importance of a constitution. On the ministerial side, the way a minister is appointed under the current constitution is that the prime minister again gets to appoint any one of his MPs to be a minister. So it means every MP, even though they're supposed to have been elected to represent their constituencies, are not really representing their constituencies. A, they're representing the party. B, they're representing the people who fund them and their party. And C, they're afraid to talk out, because if they do, they won't get appointed to a ministerial position. So they're afraid. So the prime minister now have control over the House of Representatives because he commands the majority, and he has control over the Senate. Both houses he has full control over. That's a weak constitution and a corrupt constitution by design. And we have to understand the mechanism there and mash them down, or them go and mash we up, as they have done. So what I want to do is for us to understand these mechanisms and then pursue with aggression the destruction of those colonial frameworks and put in place a more robust constitution that will give us the checks and balances to prevent the kind of corruption that we have now become used to. But let's move on quickly. I want to now shift the conversation, which is going to be a little bit more of what we're talking about now, to why we have this dual citizenship issue, right? We must begin by understanding how the Constitution feeds into this. Now, we have, first of all, in our Constitution, a foreign head of state, okay? We have a Constitution with a foreign head of state. The King or Queen of England, the monarch of England, is our head of state. They head our country. When they want to say it is titular or ceremonial or whatever, it's still the head of your country is a foreigner, resident in a foreign country, who has the highest honor and position in your governance structure. Okay? The Constitution is written, if you read it carefully, it's written to protect the interest of the monarchy instead of the people, which it sees as subjects. So our Constitution do not see us as sovereign individuals or as a sovereign collective. It sees us as subjects of another person or a group of persons. The head of the monarch and his or her heirs are what we're paying obeisance to in our Constitution. Follow me carefully. Our leaders, the very people we have trusted for the last 80 years, they chose the monarchy over a republic. This implies that they accepted the status as subjects, and they embraced the idea of being a part of the British monarchy and a part of its commonwealth. The evidence of this is that since 1962 to today, 2 years, we have kept the monarchy in place without even slightly changing it. So our leaders are fully committed to this. All of our leaders, or most of them, including the sitting Prime Minister, accepted the UK Privy Council as our final appeals court. And they have kept that in place and fought against any change from that. The PMs, including PJ Patterson and Andrew Holness, they have also accepted the King's Council status, which means they honor the monarchy. So mentally, they're more deranged than the people they're leading. The people will never rise higher than their leaders. And if they're following deranged leaders, the people are also going to be deranged. So this so-called constitution does not see the Commonwealth countries as foreign powers, contrary to what you have heard in some of the other vloggers. These Commonwealth countries are seen as part of the British domain, regardless of whatever weakness there might be in the attractions and connections. And so when the Constitution now talks about you signing up to a foreign power, if you have signed up to a passport in Canada or a passport in England or a passport in Australia, you have not signed up to a foreign power, because you're still signed up to the Commonwealth of Britain. And while this may be argued otherwise in the courts, and in some countries they have argued against it and won, but the fact of the matter is, if we were to follow the logic of our Constitution, the decisions of the framers of our Constitution, the first parliament that adopted our Constitution, you would see that we have accepted our status as subjects. And the question is, why have our leaders accepted this for the last 62 years? Why have they been party to the system of the last 80 years? Why have they not educated the people to what has really been happening to them since 1834? My question to you all, do you now see why this Constitution in its very foundation is bad for Jamaica and is the problem we're faced with as a Jamaican people? Your thoughts. Let's begin with Mr. Duff, please.
Really and truly, there are a couple of messages that was broadcast by Mr. Glenn Bishop and the Real Patriot, so forth, that I'm going to disagree with there regarding the population of Jamaica. If you don't educate the people, you can't expect them to understand the current rules or the laws. I personally migrated to Canada as a child. And if I never understood the laws of this country, I'm telling you, I definitely would not end up where I am today. So that shows me understanding or knowledge of the place or the laws and the rules or education or the Constitution is very important. So one of the reasons or the tools that they've used to distract or subdue and suppress the population of Jamaica is the knowledge. And if the knowledge is not there, no matter how hard and how many changes you can do to the Constitution, and you don't understand what is currently going on, you will not be able to get the benefit out of it. The leadership is not the only issue, because when the leadership was presented with a constitutional, they themselves perhaps weren't even knowledge, and it's been proven in history. If you go to a lot of texts, when the Europeans travel the world, they did travel the world, and they go to countries where they know they can manipulate and easily influence for their benefit. And that is currently going, and it goes on right up to today, including our educational system. There's no place in Europe that they adopt the African educational system as is and put it into practice. No, they modify it to their own benefit. And that is a fact. There's no country at all. Yes, but also they have a systematic tools that can oppress and hold and withheld from the population. That's it.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in? Just open your mic. Right? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would like to ask. I understand, Mr. Patterson, how you started in the past, where it was the Commonwealth of Nations, of British nations. So all of those nations colonized by the British Empire, to make that empire more prosperous. And if we as a nation, when we were being given this so-called independence, we were left to fund our own bill or fund our own debt as a country or fund our own development. The land point is also an important point. Now, if we are a country that is expected to carry our own weight internationally, then I do not think that any association with other Commonwealth countries should be more important than the country's interest to provide for that country's own benefit or for its citizens. Now, if you can tell me one benefit that Jamaica will gain by allowing a member of any parliament, at any sector of government, to be allowed to leave Jamaica after serving any amount of time, then that benefit alone would make me concede my point. But there is no benefit that Jamaica can gain by creating a framework that allows someone to be elected in Jamaica to serve in government or in any capacity in the country, supposedly for the nation's interest. and that person is also a citizen of a foreign land. The truth is, you must have vested interest in the product for you to, for anybody to take you serious in your intention to do what it takes for the benefit of that place, that business, that
Can I
country.
interrupt you for 1 second? I want that point to be heard, and I want us to debate that point. But we're not reach there yet. So I'm gonna hold it, just hold it a little bit. I know you're ready to let it go, but just hold it a little bit. I'm gonna come back to it because it's a very important point. Any point on what I've said so far? I want to hear any rebuttals to what I haven't yet dealt with the dual citizenship as a, the way you're talking about it. We're gonna get this yet, but any other points on what I've said before? I
Well,
want to hear any feedback on that, any questions, concerns.
yeah,
Go ahead, Miss Walker.
sorry. I just want to say that when you look at the Canadian Constitution, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for the Jamaican Constitution, the Constitution is the highest law in the land. That means every policy, procedure, every action is derived strictly from the Constitution. That's the importance of the Constitution. When citizens are lost, it's because they're not familiar with the Constitution and the acts, and the government tend to abuse people's ignorance of the Constitution. So it's very important. Now, when I take a look at the Jamaican Constitution and I made a comparison to the Canadian Constitution, I noticed that the Jamaican Constitution is not written for Jamaican because it's not written for the layman. It's written for lawyers or qualified individuals. So already it is not there to prosper the Jamaican. Just by looking at it is not very legible when you compare that to the Canadians. It's not simplified for the average Jamaican to understand it, and that creates a level of confusion and disconnection. And secondly, also, when I look at the Jamaican Constitution, the Governor General is foremost written all throughout that Constitution. So the Constitution speaks to England and the interest of England. So again, if we're talking about Jamaica and we're using a document that is the guiding principle over all affairs in the country, and that constitution is written not to be in line with its citizen, we have a real problem because every action that is taken is gonna be taken from that document before it goes to anywhere else. And I just wanted to say that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Walker. You make a very important point where you refer to the fact that the document is not written in the language of the Jamaican people, for one. It's not written for them to, in fact, even the brightest Jamaican will struggle with the document to really go through it and have a real appreciation. I love the way, for example, the Americans wrote their constitution. You, by reading just the preamble alone, just the preamble, you know what I'm going to talk about. You know where they want to go with their country, what their mission is. Jamaica have no mission. Our mission is to serve the monarchy. That is what you see in Jamaica. Our mission is to serve the monarchy, to love the monarchy, to adore the monarchy, to obey the monarchy, and to look out for the interests of the monarchy and their heirs. Then we have a bunch of other stuff that are mentioned, and one day later we add something about Bill of Rights and so on. But our constitution is written with the mission of the colonials in mind, with the desires of the colonials in mind, and not us. So we can't, I'm going to talk to this later. I'm going to get back to this, but let me just jump now, unless somebody else wants to say something on what we just said. I want to jump to the next point, which I think will begin to give Mr. Bishop the opportunity that he needs to jump into some areas. Now, given that our so-called constitution was not truly written by us or for us to further our cause as individuals and as a collective, I believe without a shadow of a doubt that it must be replaced, not tinkered with, not edited, not reformed. The entire thing is wrong. So you have to start with the premise of why Jamaica, what Jamaica, where Jamaica, who Jamaica. Its entire basis and foundation is flawed. And the impact of that has been devastating and destructive to this very day. Even the kind of conversation you see our leaders have. I want you to take for a moment and go and just look at a conversation that, say, the president of the prime minister of Singapore has, and the opposition, and they just listen to their MPs talk. Go and watch one of their parliament, and you'll see the tenure. You'll see the kind of conversation which is had, which we can't have. We just have aggressive fight, cuss conversation. Even myself, I've come back to Jamaica and I can't even have solid, good conversation with people because we just want to fight. My party, this, that. We don't want to have a civil, decent, orderly, intellectual conversation that talks about cause and effect. How do we move from here to here? Not who did do this when, and when my party didn't power this, and when. We have to stop this, people. And so, my thought process on this, and I could be wrong, and you can correct me, is that the basis is wrong, the foundation is wrong, and the impact has been devastating and destructive. We must scrap it, we must rip it up, we must abolish it, we must completely 100% replace it with a Jamaican constitution. And so for this to happen, our first and true constitution must reflect our aspirations, our history, and our reality. And here's why I say this. We have to make sure it reflects our reality as a people. And one such reality is that we are a nation robbed of more than half of its population by forced migration. Watch me now. Why we have to change this, why we have to replace this, why our first constitution must be designed to reflect not only our aspirations, which I don't think we have thought about. I have thought about it, but I don't think we as a nation have indulged in that. What they call reform right now is foolishness. Mickey Mouse, gameplay, distraction. We need to be talking about what is our real aspiration as a nation, as a people. And that discussion must be had in the context of our history and in the context of our present reality. One such reality, as I said before, is the fact that we have lost more than a half of our population to forced migration. Many of us, and arguably the best and brightest of us, have been forced to exile this country, as economic refugees in other countries due to 80 years of bad governance. We shouldn't then seek to design a system that punishes these economic refugees by asking them to give up the benefits of their dual citizenship, Mr. Bishop, but rather embrace them as full Jamaicans, even though they might have American, Canadian, British, German, Spanish, whatever it is, other citizenship. We cannot afford to punish them for something outside of their control. It's the very same people who brought in this constitution, who agreed with it, who enforced it, who've caused many, many Jamaicans to run away from this country. We must welcome the diaspora as an equal partner in our global family to help us reverse the brain drain in this country caused by this 80 years of JLP and PNP bad governance. We must remember.
Point of information.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
If we are going to take that view of it, then we need to really assess what led to the Emancipation Declaration, what led to the end of slavery. So let us not go back to 1962. Let us go back to 1834, 1836, 1838. And the real reason for and there you will find the real reason for our constitution. It was the fight on the ground, fire, revolts, rebellion. That is what led to the constitution. The interest that the colonizers were gaining from the plantations in Jamaica was being burnt. The profits were being burnt by the persons here living it that risked their life to burn these plantations, made the British in their parliament realize that it was no longer profitable to maintain what was the status quo, to have the British House of Commons in Jamaica, where you have British lords ruling over the slave subjects in Jamaica for the financial benefit of the lords who were living abroad.
Point taken, but hold on a second.
Cannot be.
Hold on.
Cannot be.
Let me finish this thought, and then you're going to see what you're saying, how it fits in perfectly. Let me finish the thought. I am one that must totally agree that if we never burn down some plantation, we'll get no changes. But if you're going to look at the past, you have to look at the complete past. World War I and II had its impact. It's not just what we did in Jamaica that created the outcome. It's a global confluence of issues that brought us to that point. But let me not stray too far. I want to finish this point. We must remember, and we must respect, and we must appreciate the billions in remittances which the diaspora sent to this country and sent many children to school, paid many healthcare bills. Hold on. Paid many healthcare bills, provided a pension for many seniors, and put food on the table for many struggling families. Let us not be foolish and misunderstand what we're talking about here. We were forced outside of our country. There are many people who want to come back home badly, but they were forced out of their country because of our own leaders. Not what happened in the past, but what is happening in the present. Since we took over our own country or pretended to take over our own country, we have continued to maintain structures and processes and models that cause us to run out many of our people. These same diasporans have spent billions into our economy every time they return from vacation, graduations, champs, and funerals. The point I'm making is this. Any new constitution, and if we really want to move Jamaica forward, we must look at not just the past, but also the present reality. You can't have half of your people, more than half of your people, outside of the country. Arguably the best and brightest people of our country who have been forced out of it, because every time we have a graduation from high school, 70% of the students that graduate do not have the skills that they need to have. 30% have somewhat the skills they need to have. And within 3 to 4 years, half of those who have the skills we need in this country are gone. So we're having more and more a concentration. And Mr. Bishop, I am hoping we don't resort to simply burning down the plantation this time, but that this time we use intelligence and strategy and design. And part of that design is to respect, appreciate, and integrate the diaspora in this country. I cede to you now to speak. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's me.
Yes,
I have to respond.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have to respond.
Yeah.
Do what I'm saying, Patterson. I will not try to minimize the importance of the support, the collaboration of Jamaicans living in Jamaica with the diaspora. Now, they say he who pays the piper picks the tune. And if the person here doing what it takes to fight this oppressive system of government allows themselves to be swayed by the need for remittance, then pretty soon we will not be able to find what we are fighting for, this Jamaican culture that we all, because you see, every country has people that migrate, but there's a reason why Jamaicans abroad will stand tall and embrace their Jamaica or being Jamaican. It is, for one, maybe the spirit. It is the love of Jamaica. Other persons migrate to maybe the US, and as soon as they reach, they'll start claiming US citizenship, and it will be the pride of their existence. But for some reason, persons from Jamaica, wherever they go, they want to hold on to that label of being Jamaican. And I'm saying, I understand that. But if we, the persons in Jamaica, are going to be charting a framework that will benefit, that will develop, that will enhance to its full potential Jamaica, then we have to put a framework in place to ensure that the persons that we are giving this responsibility have a vested interest in Jamaica. Now, for America, for you to become the president of the United States of America, in my research, I found that you have to be a natural born American citizen. There is no such provision in Jamaica's framework of governance. And I think if we were to find one reason that is the unit factor, the denominator that has caused the dilapidated state of Jamaica's government today, our governance today, that would be the reason. The fact that someone like Mr. Edward Siaga, a known CIA operative, could have come to Jamaica and fight vehemently against policies put forward by Mr. Manley, who was a son of the soil, who was saying, the global push of governments, or I like to call them the collusion of governments that they formed with their UN, United Nations, all of their agencies. They put these agencies in place so that they can muscle or strong arm governments into doing what they want. So there once was the sugar tariff, and they wanted to say to Mr. Manley that they were going to be doing this. It was the CARICOM push, and they were telling countries to stop planting certain crops in favor of having another country plant it and sell it to you for cheaper. Mr. Manley had to hold out and say, no, it's my sugar, it's my country, and I reserve the right to even price my sugar. You see, it is for these economic pushes that Mr. Manley was making that the international collusion of governments started to create, impose embargoes on Jamaica. And that is when things started going bad. If there is a Jamaican that is for Jamaica, let us say living in America, what is it that you would, how is it that you would expect that person living in America to serve in any capacity in Jamaica's system of government for the benefit of Jamaica? That person would have a primary responsibility to develop the area that they're living.
Well, can I make a
Sure, jump in. Go ahead, Zaria.
statement on that? If all things being equal, I would agree with that perspective that the person, you would need to be homegrown to hold such a high position in the country. However, Jamaica's makeup is different, and having lost so much of the brain drain, now what has been left, particularly after the most recent brain destruction of our small businesses during the FinSac situation, you now have people whose perspective have been limited to what's here. Those of us in the diaspora who have had a different perspective, now you can look at and even guide in a more cohesive manner than what we currently have. And so under normal circumstances, yes, I believe that the person who is leading a nation should be homegrown. But in the situation where Jamaica is right now, it is almost imperative that those of us in the diaspora intervene on the behalf of Jamaicans, because what they are suffering and dealing with is something that they themselves can't come out of.
Thank you.
So
Well said. Well,
I'm happy that we have an
hold on, Mr. Bishop. Hold your horses. Did you finish your thought, Ms. Empress?
I just wanted to say I'm happy that you created an option for people who we can look outside of what the current framework at something else that we can design that is in the benefit of a new republic.
Right. Thank you so much, Empress. Anyone else?
Yes, I do have my input. Seems like Jamaica is suffering from a duality complex. because Jamaica have at the head of Jamaica the British, um, the monarch. So already Jamaica has started off with its head being an outsider, a colonial power. Now, we're talking about Jamaican citizens who are born and bred in Jamaica and have had to leave Jamaica. Returning to Jamaica with a wealth of knowledge and skills has contributed to the Jamaican economy vastly. What will Jamaica be today with this, if not for this migration of Jamaicans who are returnees, who are one of the challenges that many nations like the US, Canada, and Europe faces how much remittance is being leaving their country to go back to homelands. So we're not just abandoning our country, we're outside facing various challenges, knowing fully well that we will never be fully accepted the country that we migrated to. Make no mistake about it, we are full citizens of Jamaica, and that's not an option. And a government doesn't dictate who is and who is not. We are not partial Jamaicans because we leave Jamaica. In fact, if it's to be argued, we're contributing much more so intellectually, economically, politically. And if you must go back into the politics, you had Marcus Garvey and the PNP party. There was a group of diasporan that was heading the PNP People's Political Party, the People National Party. So we have always been intertwined. Now, why is it that Jamaicans feel comfortable accepting a colonial state that was responsible for the enslavement of Jamaican, but have a harder time seeing one of their own with all good intentions representing Jamaica as head of state? What's the complexity there? I don't understand that.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Any other thoughts from anyone else that want
Yeah,
to?
I'd like to
Mr.
probably so.
Patterson, may I say something?
Uh,
May I say something, please?
okay, go ahead, Mr. Ambrose, and then Mr. Patriot.
Okay. According to what Kerrian has said, listening to what is being said here in Jamaica by some people, they are saying, what if you are of a military age and there are so many wars going on around between the Commonwealth and America and whatever. What if you are of age and they want to, you are, say you are the Prime Minister or an MP, and they want to call you to come in and serve in that war? How, you know, I don't know if Mr. Patterson have any word on that or anyone. How will that be worked out? Because once they call you and said, come in, we want you to go to whichever place, there's a war going on. How will that be? How will you address that, Mr. Patterson?
Sure, sure. There are many scenarios you can come up with concerning a dual citizen and what can come up. Many scenarios, and I love to look at scenarios because that's the way you build systems. You look at possible outcomes and so on. You have remote scenarios, and then you have likely scenarios. Then you look at responses. If anyone happens to have, let's say today, Canada is in a war. I'm a Canadian citizen, and they decide to call me up and say, I need to come and fight their war, for example. I have a decision to make, like anybody else. Let's say I am not a Canadian citizen, but Canada is involved in a war, and they said, we're involved. Does anybody want to volunteer? I could, if I'm not a Canadian, I could volunteer and they'd gladly take me up. In fact, Jamaica during the Second World War, our first premier, Mr. Norman Manley, fought in the Second World War. Yeah. And he was proud of it. If you read his book, it's well laid out as one of his greatest achievements. So we can find scenarios, but what we should focus on is the reality. Here's the reality. If you decide to serve your country, Jamaica, and the people of Jamaica invest their wishes in you, invest their vote in you, you now have a decision to make. If you're faced with any kind of conflict, you can draw the line. And if you don't have that conflict, let's say you are not a dual citizen. There are many non-dual citizens who have sold out Jamaica. For example, it is our patriotic prime ministers who signed off on deals with our highways that gave the highway companies a deal that they can never lose as long as they're running this thing in Jamaica. It is our prime ministers who signed deals to destroy our cockpit country, our patriotic Jamaican prime ministers, Ubania, who make those decisions. As a matter of fact, many of the decisions reached by our patriotic Banya politicians have been detrimental to Jamaica, and primarily because they may have lacked the knowledge to negotiate effectively. I see them negotiating right now with China and many other countries, and I can see clear as day that they have not a clue what they're doing. All they see is the top line of the negotiation, how they're going to benefit immediately as a politician and as a government, but they have no understanding of the long-term implications of how it's going to affect their country. So this is my position. We need all 3 million of us at home, patriotic, Barnia, Livia, never left here. We need all 3 million. And by the way, that 3 million is diminishing for various reasons. We also need all 4 million Jamaicans abroad to join hands as one Jamaica, because the fact of the matter is we're stronger together. We started independence with a profitable Jamaica omnibus service. You remember that? That was our transportation system. We had that. Who built the JOS? Foreigners working with Jamaicans built a profitable Jamaica omnibus service, a profitable public transportation system, killed by our leaders. We inherited a profitable Air Jamaica. Coming from the colonials and Jamaicans working together, we built Air Jamaica, and it was profitable until we take it over and kill it. We killed our airports, and now it's in the hands of foreigners. We killed our ferry, gone. We killed our rail service, gone. We killed our water system. All the major water reservoirs we have were built by the colonials and not by us. We killed our thriving agricultural industries, banana, coffee, cocoa, you name it. We killed it. We killed our growing manufacturing industry. You remember metal box? Remember we used to make the outlets and the switches right here in Jamaica. It's gone now, all of them gone. We've killed our manufacturing sector. We, the patriotic, Barnia and never left your politicians did that. We killed the good network of roads that we have by bringing in all forms of corruption to the point where now we have to give away our land to private companies from overseas to build our highways and double tax us to drive on our own highways. We did that. We lost and sold just about everything to foreigners. It's better we have our own people with dual citizenship come here and help we than to have foreigners from our local leaders take away everything from we. It's a basic mathematics we have to look at here. We're mismanaging all of our assets. So we can't afford to dismiss more than half of our people because they have dual citizenship and tell them the only way you can come back here and help us in government is if you give up that which you have earned overseas. We cannot even build and maintain our own highways. We need the value-added intellect, the experience and the skill of the diaspora fully engaged. Let us not discriminate against our brothers and sisters. Let us work together to stamp out corruption, including vote buying. With the diaspora involved in the electoral process, you can't buy the diaspora because $3,000 and $5,000 can't buy members of the diaspora. They're bigger than that. Their income bigger than that. So we have to leverage this situation to broaden our governance model and make sure that we have a balancing effect. The first step in doing this is to give the diaspora equal voting rights with absentee ballots and the ability to run for any office as a dual citizens as long as they come back to Jamaica. Look at the long lineups at the embassies. Almost every Jamaican one left the country. Why? Why don't want to leave the country? Why you have long lines at the US embassy, long lines at the British, long lines at the Canadian embassy? Because the people want to leave. Our indigenous leaders, those who never left here, those who are running things and those who want to get rid of the diaspora out of the picture, they are doing an atrocious job. And we need to balance that out by bringing the intellect of our people back. Don't allow bad mind to cause us to cut off our nose to spite our face. We need all hands on deck. Our population right now is declining. You go check it. For the first time in the history of Jamaica, our population is now declining. We're not growing. Singapore started out life with less than 2 million people. They have 6 million people now inhabiting the size of St. Thomas. We have less than 3 million people after the same number of years, more number of years than them as an independent country. Why? Our people are running away. And if we're foolish, we will lock them off forever, block them out as we have been doing, make life hard for them to participate in the country. And it's to our detriment. We need and we must embrace the diaspora as one away. The moral decline in Jamaica is alarming as our education system continues to fail more than 70% of our students. You know, all the way over 50 years old, know that Jamaica used to have a robust education system. Our people were among the creme de la creme when you graduate from high school. Look at us today. The best and the brightest are migrating, leading to a higher and higher concentration of the worst of us without the modifying and diluting effect of the best of us. You want a nation where the worst is balanced by the best and they come together and then you dilute the bad effects and bring up the rest of the nation. That's why we need the diaspora as a key part of our governance model. Anybody want to respond to that?
I would even say, just to jump in, I would even go further to say, in complete agreement with everything you've said, go beyond that and saying, I think all Jamaicans should be given the opportunity to have dual citizenship. And those who are here should be given an opportunity in some way to explore other nations and other opportunities through exchange programs. Our education system, there's so
That's what China does. That's what China does. China sends its people all over the world.
Yes, yes.
Let them go.
I wanted to speak on that. I have a point here. Is it brain drain when China sends its nationals all over the world to open haberdasheries and supermarkets?
No, it's not brain drain.
The framework is different. The framework is different.
Yeah.
Because based on the philosophy of Colonel Mao, they all know that they have a responsibility to the motherland. The Jamaicans in the diaspora have not demonstrated that responsibility to the motherland.
You're talking
they would want to stay where they are and assume political positions or representation and representative positions for the persons living in Jamaica?
No, Mr. Bishop, let me clarify for you. We're not talking about you living in Canada and being in Jamaica's parliament. We're not talking about that. We're talking about...
No, but you're saying they should vote. You're saying the 4 million should vote. If there are 3 million here,
okay, I get
if there are 3 million here, and you're going to give voting rights to 4 million living abroad, then you're handing them the political system.
Okay, I see what you're saying now. I thought you were talking about something else. Just so you know, the country you admired earlier about the Americans and their Barnier president, they allow the same thing. Their citizens can vote from overseas. All of their citizens can vote.
Including Canada.
Yeah, everybody can vote from overseas. Well, Ms. Empress didn't finish her point. Ms. Empress, you want to finish up?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
Go ahead, Ms. Empress. Finish your point, and then Mr. Bishop.
Oh, yes. I wanted to just continue to say that, you know, the opportunity for people to experience life outside of Jamaica is valuable. And you were saying that that's what China does. And I think that is for those Jamaicans who have been here and aren't able to leave. We need to create opportunities for them to be able to explore opportunities outside of Jamaica. We cannot lock people into poverty, which is what's happening now, causing them to flee for economic opportunities when the opportunities are very much here. But as you mentioned, the rules or guidelines are not in place to facilitate that, then we're going to have people trapped in a system
Two
that's
things. Two things, Empress. I want to pick up on Mr. Bishop's point. One, he mentioned about Chairman Mao in China, how he deliberately planned for the Chinese to go out and learn and come back. Now, that's leadership. Our people don't leave because of leadership helping them to think outside. Our people run away from the economic dilemma. Listen, when I walk down at Elam down the road and I see a woman in our yard with 4 or 5 picnic, and I got a call this morning from one. She don't have no food, nothing at all. She need some food right now. She's begging. She don't have nothing at all. This is right across our country. Can't send them kids to school, can't pay for medical bills, can't pay the rent, can't fix the roof, can't pay bus fare. It is atrocious. No, a leader, a good leader, an effective government understands and plan for and develop the economy of their people. Bad leaders rape the people, and that's what we have in Jamaica. They have raped the people, and then the people look for ways out. If you go to any high school graduation and ask the kids, what do you want to do? They want to leave Jamaica. They leave university. What do you want to do? I can't find a job in my field at all. I just pure call center work there, whatever. And not even that is enough. I want to leave. Everybody, Mr. Bishop, if you walk down the road and ask 10 young person, 9 out of them want to leave Jamaica. It's not because they're bad. Don't blame them. It's not because they're bad. My wife's mother, my beautiful, my lovely mother-in-law, she never leave Jamaica because she bad. She left Jamaica because the work what she had do couldn't make ends meet, and she see an opportunity and she fly out and make something of herself and file for our daughter and give her a chance to get a university education and to make something of herself. Let us not blame our people for the failings of our leaders. They have failed, they have failed, they have failed. But I want to say this. Just recently, I had to file some annual returns here in Jamaica for my business. And I also had to file annual returns in Canada for my business. I was behind on my filings because of my work in the UIC that takes away my time. When I went to file my behind annual returns and stuff in Jamaica, it cost me initially 2 days and $187,000. I filed the same things in Canada. It cost me 15 minutes and $25. Okay? When I came back from my vacation and my business trip overseas, I get some paperwork that says, sorry, you need to come back again. It has cost me another day, in the finish yet still, but roughly another day so far, and a few more dollars. Okay? And each case is take me the entire day. In Jamaica, the deal with it is the entire day. We're going to spend at the company's office, the entire day at the tax office, to do anything, to register my vehicle, to do it, everything take forever. I am a systems person. I'm a trained engineer. I'm a trained CPA. And when I look at their system, within 1 week, I could fix all of their systems with my training from Canada. I have worked in the Canadian government as a director of finance at the highest level, managing $5 billion in budget. And I have seen how inefficient, incompetent, and everything is just wrong in the way we design and manage our system here. And you want to tell me we hire 63 MPs, 228 councillors, and 23 senators, and we cannot fix those basic systems? No, sir. We must integrate the diaspora to come back and help us fix this problem.
Thank you.
All right, let's go. Can I say something now?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Patriot.
Right. So all of what I hear everybody say, it all comes back down to corruption. As I tell you, even if I'm personally one who don't believe in that's where the baby with the bathwater. Basically, the Constitution is a moving document. It must be modified accordingly, right? And even before, Mr. President, you mentioned the banana plant, the banana thing going out, the sugar thing going out. All of this is because of corruption. It's not necessarily because of lack of knowledge. You find that the person, you'll find that a carpenter being the head of, being Minister of Justice. You'll find that a taxi owner, a owner of a taxi company, being the Minister of Health. All of that is because of
But the system allows that. The system says you can do that.
Yes, but what I'm saying to you, even if we so we change the constitution and allow diaspora people, you'll always find that because you don't address the primary problem, which is corruption, the disease, the cancer in the thing, which is the corruption, and enforcing the laws on the books to deal with corruption. Because all of the Canada, New Zealand, Australia, all of them have the Barbados, all of them have, you could say, colonial rule, but the thing that's less with them is corruption. That's why I think
Mr. Petra, right? Hold on, stick a pin.
Yes.
Let me reason. Let's reason this out.
Yes.
One system says you can appoint your friend and company to any position you want. Another system says you can't assign your friend and company to any position you want. Which one will have more corruption than the other?
Well, I guess the one that says you cannot, mandatory say you cannot, but they still Canada have the same like us.
No, but what I'm saying, but Canada put in place laws. Let me deal with Singapore. I love studying Singapore. And the reason I did Singapore is because they got independence the same time as we. 1965, we got 1963. And they started with, their situation was worse than us. We had industries well developed. We spoke the same language for the most part. We were the same religious. So religiously, we were homogeneous. Language, we were homogeneous. Industry-wise, we were more developed. They came with language barriers, race wars and race riots, communists and whatever fighting. Japan had just decimated their country. All heap of stuff, right? And so what Lee Kuan Yew did, let me give you an example of what they did in their constitution. They rip up the one that Britain gave them. They said, listen, this is not the work for it. So they said, listen, let's make sure we don't go with this monarch thing as head of our country. So that's a constitutional issue. They decide not to do that. Then they said, tell you what, in our House of Assembly, we're going to have a 3-part system. I'm not recommending that for Jamaica. I think ours is better. I think what the US is proposing is better. But they said, let's set aside some seats for independence. That's what they did in their constitution. So they said, you must have at least 9 seats for independence in their model. Then they said, over here, so we need to have at least 3 seats that the president appoint based on his own latitude and stuff. And the others will run based on party and win. That's how they have it. So the balance. They also said, let's change the requirements for politicians who are going to serve in ministerial position. They have to have certain competencies in order to be able to qualify to serve. So because of that, in their system, the best and brightest are attracted to the political arena because it makes sense. They can serve with a lot of dignity and not have their reputation shredded and so on. So they have attracted fine, intelligent, brilliant minds who can design their infrastructure. If you go to Singapore, remember Singapore, a small country, no resources. Jamaica is too small to do anything. We tell ourselves, right? We said Jamaica is too small. We can't afford anything because we're too small. They figured out how to build a railway system that circles the country, goes out into all the main areas. So I can be in pay labor 30 minutes away from, by train, 30 minutes away from Shanghai. And I must zoom, get there in no time and conduct business and come back. If I try that in Jamaica, the whole day it'll take. Though, you want to tell me that after 80 years of the same 2 parties, after 62 years of independence, we still can't fix our public transport. But you said the issue is corruption. And what I'm saying is this: the corruption is caused by the system. If you don't put in place the system that is going to keep the guardrails on, you're going to have the politicians having the latitude to make these inefficient, ineffective, corrupt, bad decisions that lead us to where we are. So we cannot dismiss the importance of the design of the country. How you design the country guides and guardrails the leaders so that they can't do certain things. And when the UIC is done with this country, we're going to have a country where if you elect a bad leader, the system handcuffs him or her. If you elect a good leader, the system empowers him or her. If you don't do that, you're going to end up with wishy-washy governments that will be manipulated by the colonial powers and give us the outcomes we've seen in Jamaica. Singapore is a Bible that can show us how good governance works, even if we don't have to accept everything they do. But we must see the Constitution as the first principle. If we don't start with the first principle and hope to fix corruption on the back end, we will never get anywhere. Mr. Bishop.
But then what if you have a leader that has dual citizenship with a country that you don't have any extradition treaty with? Then that leader can just rub up and you will be here waiting with your handcuff after they book the flight to go back to that country that they have citizenship for.
Wonderful point. And that is why you have the controls up front. You don't wait for him to fail and then run away. Your controls must be up front. And by the way, he doesn't have to...
Then what better control up front, Mr. Patterson? What better control up front than to say it cannot happen? You can't have it.
What cannot happen? What cannot happen? That he can
to
run
say
away?
If you want to serve as in a public office in Jamaica, then it's fine. You're born here, you leave, you work anywhere you want, and we allow you to do that. And you return to Jamaica for 14 years before you can consider public office. You see, I don't want the members of the diaspora that hears me on this platform to think that I have anything against somebody who decided to migrate somewhere else.
Finish your point. I want the point.
Here's the point that I made.
Yeah, make the point, yeah.
All right, I want to start. Let me start by fixing the point. I am not saying, I don't want the members of the diaspora to think that I am saying there is anything wrong with an individual Jamaican going to any other region, country, or place to seek an easier way to a better life or to financial stability or freedom. Fine? No, you go there and you get it. When you go there and you get it, I would hope that while you were pursuing that for yourself, you considered any family member that you had in Jamaica. Now, that family member would probably be doing a business. Maybe that person is in running for office somewhere, and you would support that person while you're away. I don't have anything wrong with Mr. Patterson's idea in our new constitution that we're maybe discussing here to maybe give you guys franchise or that right to vote in the Jamaican election from wherever overseas territory you might be living. I am maybe even for that. But I am saying find your vote for somebody who is here. You support the businesses here. And that is the only safeguard that we need to put in place to ensure that the development benefits Jamaica. Otherwise, you can have persons pillaging Jamaica the way that you have the French diamond companies pillaging the DRC.
Mr. Bishop, let me ask you.
Can I say something, Mr. Patterson?
And also, I would like to step in. So please, Mr. Bishop, before you continue, I would like you to be, consider there's a few of us who would like to respond to your questions and answers. Okay?
All right. Let me take everybody else because I could respond right away. Who want to go first? Miss Walker, were you saying something?
Walker? Yes. I'd like to... I'd like to say that sometimes we as a people like to cut off our noses to spite our face. I want to return us to the Jamaican condition as it is currently. Jamaica population is dwindling. It's going beneath the growth census and curve rapidly. That means if we don't make a change, and an immediate change, we're not going to have a Jamaica to fight for. In the meantime, while we're fighting among each other, there are others having a keen eye at what is at stake. Jamaica is a very rich and resourceful land, and it's up for grab. We need each other We don't need to be fighting against each other. We from the diaspora has developed a set of skill set that our country didn't give us access to. Rather, the diasporan countries like to brain drain and take the brightest. And so Jamaicans, whether they like it or not, needs to be prepared for the diasporan to return in order to fight for what is remaining of Jamaica. Because if you look at your Jamaican census, you will learn that your population in another 50 years will not belong to you. That means your offspring will have a lot more struggle and fight to have anything remotely close to what we consider as Jamaicans because it's up for grab. And so we need the brightest and the best to step in place and make Jamaica work in the most favorable way for our people.
Here, here,
Period.
here, here. Thank you. Mr. Duff, Mr. Patriot, please don't let me forget to come back to you because I don't think you finished your thought as well. Mr. Duff, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, I heard a lot of information you're passing on, Mr. Bishop, and you're getting to be rather confused of what you're stating. And why I say that is this: you're in agreement and you're in a disagreement. Okay, you can't be having your cake and eating it too. Okay, for instance, yes, the diaspora is vital. You've said that, but you have an apprehension in allowing. You may allow us to come back and vote. No, that's not even. It is actually those choices will be in the constitution, and it is the constitution will the next constitution will be formed by the Jamaican, not any individual prime minister or so forth. So that is not even an issue. The other thing is, it is a fact. The information you're hearing stated, these are factual. Diaspora did not leave voluntarily to go for a vacation. We choose to leave because of economical reasons. And that is a 100% fact. Also, our best are leaving the island. It's true. 100% again. Because the average individual in Jamaica who leaves, and less than average educated, they go away on farm work, not to come to a country like this and offer, Canada or United States or England and go into a professional. They have to be well qualified and vetted and rechecked and requalified in order to even get in as a position. Thirdly, I'm going to say something again. I can give you a million information why Jamaica right now needs the diaspora. And if you are not sitting and watching and taking notes and paying attention, and other Jamaicans who believe the diaspora is a cash cow, we should only go away, as you've just stated, and support other Jamaican in their political endeavor. That is not. It is not just part of the corruption process. It is beyond that. Education, educated, and the previous and the current generation. Like, if you can take a look at my hair, you'll notice it's white. That means I've seen a lot and I've experienced a lot. And I am aware of what is currently needed to put the Jamaican population back into its actual trajectory that it should be on.
Thank you, Mr. Duff.
Okay.
I just want to quickly respond, if you don't mind, to Carlene Smith. I think that's a very important question, and I don't want to give the impression that there's any resistance to renouncing citizenship. I want us to be practical and pragmatic. Here's the fact. I'll use myself, right? Because I am obviously biased and obviously conflicted because I am a Jamaican citizen and I'm also a Canadian citizen. I never hide it, by the way. You might have other politicians who have hid that they're dual. I've never hidden my status. From the day one when I entered politics, I made very clear that I am both Jamaican and Canadian. Now, let's think about it. As a Canadian citizen, when I take out my passport, I can go to the Netherlands, to Finland, to China, to Africa, to India, to Malaysia, to Myanmar, to France, to Germany, anywhere in the world without any issues. Okay?
You're adding to my point, Mr. Patterson.
Hold on. I wished that the Jamaican passport was that powerful.
Mhm.
And I will make the Jamaican passport that powerful. But until that, here's what happened now with a dual citizen. You're asking Mr. Duff to come back home. He wants to come home and he wants to help to rebuild Jamaica. And by the way, when he comes home, he's going to run up into a whole heap of roadblock. He's going to be sabotaged. He's going to be undermined. He's going to be stolen from. Even his life will be in danger. That's the reality we're talking about. Reality, not playing no games now. When you come back to this country, I've been back now 13 years. It is the roughest 13 years of my last 30 years.
Thank you.
Roughest 13 years of my last 30 years. I left Jamaica as a young man, my early 20s. I thought I was on top of the world. I went to UTech, did engineering, got my good job, first as a teacher of engineering, science, physics, and mathematics, and then went on to sugar company and get my assistant manager position, and I feel I'm big boy. Yeah, may I get chauffeur driven to work, and my money is so big, me can buy my mother a sofa set and say, yeah, mommy will take care of you or whatever, and I feel big. Then I migrate to Canada, and Canada just chop me down to size and say, you're nobody. Canada said, look, you say you know to use a lathe. Come here, sir. Look on that. What is that? What are you talking about? That's a lathe. I'm looking for something where you put another thing and you roll up and you put up your thing and you try to fix it, you push the gauge and then go and run it. So no. It's a PLC, a programmable logic circuit. You punch, bam, 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 put the metal in, wait for 15 minutes, it's done. In Jamaica, that would take me the whole day.
Thank you.
No,
Hold on. Me spoil the one day. Try another one. So I got to Canada. They cut me down to size. I grow back up now. Yeah? Work and mop the floor in the restaurant, wait the table, learn customer service a different way now. I learn to appreciate people differently now. Yeah? And me figure out how to become what they call them, an inventory clerk, then accounting clerk, then accounting supervisor, then accounting manager, then VP of finance, director, CFO. Yeah, boom. Now me learn whole heap more things, see whole heap more stuff. I said, rotted. Jamaica can be like this, man. Bam, come back to my country now, 40 years old. Go and change the world. You're mad. We don't want that. Now you think that me want to give up my Canadian passport before me figure out how to get this thing working properly? So I can't but give it up. Yeah, but give it up because you say so. And then now they just chop me right now. I'm in court right now. They have been in court now for 3 years because I led a peaceful protest to say, my body, my choice, respect the man right for choose where am I going to put it in my body. And them lock me up. And if they had a chance, I'm going to throw away the key. You want to tell me, so me must trust myself to this? No, I want us to get this thing right. And I am...
Two different motivations just outlined. Two different motivations.
Hold on. I am very appreciative of my Canadian passport. And I'm very appreciative of my Canadian experience. And I'm willing and ready to give all that I can to the Jamaican people. But don't tell me about for you to trust me, me must give up my Canadian. But no, I do it. I am going to work with you and I'm going to try to help you. But if you want me to give up what has helped me, when I want to go to Singapore the other day, I not have to worry, but just go. Even though Singapore does have a special thing with Jamaica. But I could then traverse all kind of other countries. I could stop in France, do something. Stop in the Netherlands and do something. Stop in Malaysia and do something. We need to get Jamaica there. And I want us to be sensible and pragmatic and stop playing these fool games with each other and want to lock off 50% of our people. Let's get real about the reality and fix the problem so that Jamaica can move forward and stop playing these hypocritical games that you have to have this and don't do this. Let us respect, engage all Jamaicans and leverage the skills. I am here for 13 years, suffering with you, paying the price with you. Don't tell me to pay the more price by giving up what allows me to travel everywhere in the world. Back to you, Mr. Bishop.
You have personal interest, Mr. Patterson.
Yes, of course, very personal. And yours should be personal too.
Personal interest, you have national interest. I do understand and applaud all of the work and time and effort that you put in developing your personal interest as a businessman. Good? Now with that time, sir, I am hoping that you would have made the best of it. Now when you apply for Canadian citizenship, you are making a choice based on the nation that you felt would best take care of your needs. You just explained your need to travel. You just explained that the power of that Canadian passport allow you to travel to so many places. And then I could hear you passionately saying, I should not ask you to give it up to come to Jamaica and work or serve for the development of Jamaica. And here's what I want to ask you, Mr. Patterson. What if I could find another individual who would have led a life of parallel to all of what you just said? Good? So that person worked in Jamaica, tried to climb the rank, found it difficult, migrated to Canada. And that person took some time, however long you were in Canada, and worked to develop their personal economy to whatever level they felt they needed it to be. And then they made a decision that, I need to go fix my country. And that person, with the resolve in their mind, decided that Jamaica is what I'm going to give the rest of my life. Now that person would be willing to give up their Canadian passport, because that person would have had a vested interest in Jamaica for the rest of their life. However, Mr. Patterson, the reservation that you are explaining in giving up your strong Canadian passport, it tells me, for one, that you value that Canadian passport.
Of course.
So what it means, Mr. Patterson, is that if after your efforts to improve Jamaica have failed, let us say the evil or any one of the parties that have been in control for so long decide that because Jamaica people voting for UIC now, they are going to start civil unrest in Jamaica, then everyone there who would have been with you fighting for the cause would be left to die. Buju has a song when he said, who can afford to run will run, but what about those who can't? They will have to stay. You cannot be the leader telling us Jamaicans to assemble behind you to die for the cause when you are not willing to give up that passport and die with us. Now I am saying to everybody in the diaspora, please allow me to finish. I am saying the fact that you guys are here still on a platform talking about the developments in Jamaica, you guys still have love and loyalty for Jamaica. I already respect, love, and appreciate all of you. Here's what I'm saying. As we have these conversations to develop our new constitution, I would appreciate if you guys would understand the same way that Mr. Duff said, I can't have my cake and eat it. You guys are trying to incorporate in our new constitution a mode for you to have your cake and eat it too. I think, like, let's take China for example. If a public official is found guilty of theft or embezzlement, the punishment is death. It might sound harsh. For a lot of territories, they argue about the human rights impact or the human rights breaches that these statements in law might show or the light that it sheds on China. And I think that is what you do when you have a vested interest. You let people know that this is how it is going to go and no other way. You wanting to hold on to your dual citizenship, Mr. Patterson, is a backup plan, an exit strategy. And you cannot ask well-thinking Jamaicans to have full confidence in you and your vision to develop Jamaica, whatever the cost, if you are not willing to make that commitment to the task.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. And I can say this to you with absolute clarity and absolute certainty that I am going to be and always will be 100% honest with Jamaican people. And if you want to lie to yourself I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to make it clear to you that I value what Canada offers. I am
That's right.
happy that I have my Canadian passport, and I'm happy that I'm able to do what has been denied all Jamaicans who haven't gotten that opportunity. And I want to give them that opportunity. If you want me to cut off my neck before I give them that opportunity, I will not do it. I am not going to do it. I am going to work for the people. Hear what happened. You have a prime minister who does not have, as far as I know, any dual citizenship. But that prime minister
Has
found
done
it
worse.
necessary to incorporate his company overseas to own even his house while
Thank you.
being your single citizenship prime minister. You have a prime minister, Mr. Bishop, Mr. Bishop, a prime minister who has not renounced his king council, even though he claimed that he wants to make Jamaica a republic. You have a prime minister who is willing and was willing to inject his entire nation with a drug that he himself doesn't understand, which was not fully tested, and which is still being questioned. And there's evidence coming up to show that this was extremely dangerous. So you would have had a prime minister who is willing to inject 100% of his people while not having any dual citizenship. Me, a Canadian citizen, come back to Jamaica and put my life on the line and fought against that prime minister and against that decision to defend the people of Jamaica. Don't tell me that the only way you can trust me is if I give up what I have earned. I am happy for what I've earned from Canada. I will use what I've earned from Canada, and I will defend the interest of Jamaica, and I will be the kind of leader that will stand up for us. But I will not be a fool and give up what now helps me to travel the world freely and do business freely without being shady like some who have led us. There are prime ministers who have land and buildings in other countries as we speak. There are prime ministers who just before they left office changed the law and said they must get the same dollar value pension as a sitting prime minister, even though they're not doing the work of a prime minister.
Thank you.
That's what you get from people who have not thought about protecting the interest of Jamaica. My Canadian citizenship does not make me any less or any more patriot than a Jamaican. What it makes me is a Jamaican that has been exposed, a Jamaican with external experience, and a Jamaican who have made the conscious decision to leave the beautiful, comfortable life of Canada and come back to Jamaica. When I decided to come back home, I could have gone to Florida. The USA offered me the green card to come to them country.
That's
My
right.
entire family, they have written to me, they have asked me over and over, aren't you going to take it up? I said, I don't need it. I'm already in Canada. I already have Canadian, and I've decided to go back home to Jamaica. But I'm leveraging the benefits of my years in
That's right.
Canada and leveraging the passport that I have from Canada to work on behalf of the Jamaican people. And I am very appreciative to the government and the people of Canada for the opportunity that they have afforded me. And I'm glad to lend that to my countrymen and to my country.
Well, if I'm allowed to just finish my
Yes.
point here,
Go ahead,
I just like to say, as I say, Jamaica is too small of a country to compete globally with 40% or 30% of the population. We need 100% of our population to compete globally, right? And as I say, no matter even if Jesus wrote the Constitution, if you don't have people enforcing the laws, because the Constitution is basically a book of laws, and if you don't have people enforcing it and stamping out corruption, no matter what happens, you'll always find. You see, we have Jamaicans who have just one citizenship and leadership positions, and they have houses all over the world pretty much. There's nobody to enforce. There's laws on the books that would stop them from doing that and stopping them from being corrupt. But the whole clique just seem to be corrupt, and there's no laws being enforced to stop them. So now we need all Jamaicans to come together and get rid of corruption, and we modify the constitution accordingly. We don't need to throw the baby with the bathwater. Just modify the areas that benefit Jamaica and enforce the laws on the books. El Salvador do it, and see them move from pretty much the bottom of the barrel till almost up just by eliminating most of the corruption. And the same thing can happen for Jamaica. We need all our population to compete globally. We need all Jamaicans, all hands on deck.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Patron. I still disagree with you. A bad constitution with a bad foundation needs to go, and we need to have a constitution written by Jamaicans for Jamaica. But let me say this. A Jamaican with a dual citizenship, Mr. Bishop and anybody else who think otherwise, a Jamaican with a dual citizenship is no less patriotic and no less loyal to Jamaica than a Jamaican with only Jamaican citizenship. In fact, most Jamaicans in the diaspora, and all of them that I've spoken to except one or two, long to come home and would be more inclined to do so if they saw a light at the end of the tunnel. My job, self-imposed, unpaid, my job is to provide that light. The PM noted that we have a shortage of skilled workers in this country, and there is nowhere more evident than in the government. We need to tap into the diaspora to address the serious shortage of skilled individuals to help lead our country to real prosperity. I know that the Prime Minister's talk about skilled workers is because he plans to work with other nations to populate Jamaica with other people who will continue to take over all of our industries and make Jamaicans tenants in their own country. But I'm not that way. I want to populate Jamaica with the diaspora, allow them to come back home, create avenues for them to come back home, give them the light at the end of the tunnel so that they know that there's a government in Jamaica that is fully and unequivocally committed to having all Jamaicans gain full access to their country, but only by uniting, liberating, and empowering our people. And we cannot do that unless we do what Mr. Patriot is saying, recognize the 100% population, not just the near half in the country, but the other half, and more than half that's outside the country. Only by joining together as one Jamaica can we recognize the benefit of being stronger together. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, my 2 points is basically, Mr. Bishop also mentioned a vested interest. An individual must have a vested interest, which I don't have a problem, and I believe, and I believe in that as well. This is why I would say I addressed you and saying you are contrary or you're being confusing in the issue. It's not a matter of, we all want to have vested interest, and that is a must. And I have not met any politician or hear of any politician who does not have a vested interest in Jamaica. Though they had their vested interest, they still walk away and rob the nation. The other point that I'm going to make now is this. It's not all the diasporan were Jamaican citizens. Were actually, they went out at age 21 to sign up for an application for new citizenship of another nation, which would grant them that passport. Some of us came to the foreign country at a young age, where it was literally passed through our parents. Now, what do you do with those individuals? And they're the one who's continually, or they have shown that they have a vested interest in Jamaica. What would you do with those individuals? You can answer that whenever you get the opportunity to. Yes, sir.
I want to respond to that now. We are going to take the example of Singapore. It's a partition like Singapore. The information that I have here, the Singapore government does not allow its adult citizens to hold dual citizenship. Full stop. Let's take the example.
Yes.
We're talking about the example. Let's take the example.
Yes.
Why is what is good for the goose not good for the gander?
Wonderful. Let me respond to that, Mr. Bishop. I'm very happy that you have brought that up. Very, very happy that you have brought it up. Let's think about it now. Let's think about it. So Singapore has made it that you cannot have dual citizenship in Singapore. Great. Now let's compare what the two countries have done. If you, Mr. Bishop, were born in Singapore, I don't know how old you are. If you were born in Singapore, you would have absolutely no desire to leave. If you go to Singapore today, from east to west and north to south, you're going to feel completely safe. You're going to find that the environment is clean and beautiful. You're going to find that the environment is extremely orderly. You would have received world-class education. You would have one of the highest income level compared to any other countries in the world. Your life expectancy would be more than that of Jamaica's. Your child would have every opportunity in the world to be the best that they can be. They can afford to do what they've done. But since you have raised the issue,
they did not wait, Mr. Patterson. They did not wait until they fixed the problems to establish that law.
Let me say this. No, as I said to you before, we're not going to do everything that Singapore does because you have to look at various factors. So that's one thing that they've done that I'm not proposing. But watch this carefully. Let's move to Canada for a second. In Canada, you can be a dual citizen. In Canada, you can serve as a MP and as Prime Minister as a dual citizen. In Canada, you don't have to be born in the country to be the head of its government. In Canada. Now, various countries have different rules. What I'm saying is, for Jamaica, we need to do what is best for Jamaica. And I am proposing, you don't have to agree, but I am proposing, and I am certain that the best course of action for Jamaica, given our reality today, is to ensure we fully integrate all Jamaicans, regardless of dual citizenship, and not to punish them because of dual citizenship and to leverage their dual. That's my suggestion. You don't have to follow.
That's the point. Right, that's what I'm saying, Mr. Patterson. Please allow me to clarify. There's a lot of what you just said that aligns with my philosophy. So let us see if we can pinpoint the distinctions here and understand what I'm saying. I holistically agree that the 4 million members of the Jamaican overseas diaspora should be a part of the push to improve Jamaica.
Thank you.
So let me make that point clear to everyone. Now, I am saying, in terms of leadership, for the person signing on to the contracts, for the persons doing the discussions and the negotiations on our part, we are tired of having persons who are negotiating on a country level for their personal interests. That's the root of the government corruption that has been forcing Jamaicans into a more difficult socio-economic position daily. Persons who are in public office for their personal interests.
Mr. Bishop, let me raise a point to you that I hope you will appreciate. Every single solitary human being in their right mind will always look out for their personal interests. They might lie to you. They might lie to you and say otherwise. Follow me. Just bear with me. Just listen for a second. Listen to me carefully. I love to be very honest with you. You might see me involved in politics, but I hate politics because of what it represents. But follow me. Every single solitary human being, and it is very important, acts in their personal self-interest. Everyone, every human. They might lie to you and tell you otherwise. Now, follow me carefully. What you want is a system of incentives and disincentives that guides your people to make good decisions. So they're going to want to be corrupt. If you have a company, Mr. Bishop, and I've done several companies, I've built what they call internal controls for hundreds of companies. Companies that have weak internal controls, they may hire Mother Teresa, a saint, and because the company has weak internal controls, the saint turns into a devil because they find out they can break this loophole and break. Let's make it Jamaican for a second. When a Jamaican returned to the diaspora from them good Canada or them good USA or them good UK, and they're used to certain ways of doing things. Like, for example, for their cars, to be registered, for their vehicle to be registered and fitness to be done. And they're used to them nice, good Canadian way where there's no hassle. It's very simple and easy.
You can add on individual riders at your delight and save on your insurance and insure maybe one specific aspect.
Yeah, and all the government aspect of it is just smooth and crisp. And then them come back to Jamaica now and say, me come back and I help my country now. When they come back, they reach a big roadblock. If they don't give a little something on the table, it's hard and difficult and long and painful and whole heap of sufferation for them to just get their vehicle passed. If they're importing a vehicle, if them go the normal way, it's long and it's painful and torturous, and it may even sit on the wall forever, depending on what happens. But if them slip something, why? The system. And because of the system, you turn good people into criminals. Jamaica is very good at turning good people into criminals and turning criminals into bigger criminals. We are a production machine of corruption, a production machine of scammers, a production machine of deceivers, a production machine of thieves because of the system. Of course, you need good leadership, but you need the leadership to focus on changing the system, because when you change the system, you change the behavior. I'll give you one more example. There's a time when Jamaica had no GCT. And when Mr. Patterson, PJ, thought about bringing in GCT, they said, it never work. Jamaicans would never do that. Today, we're all equally and normally doing GCT and paying GCT. So it moved from 7% to 16%, and is now back to 16.5%, down back to 15% now. But we will change if our leaders change. And I'm saying, the leader that we will have, they are committed to corruption, they're used to corruption, they're trained in corruption, and they will keep corruption. We, the people, have to rise up now, and we can't do it by ourselves locally here. We have to join hands with our brothers and sisters who are in a position to help us and who have the knowledge and experience to add to us. Let's make it about Jamaica and not about your dual citizenship, because that will lock off 50% of us from participating in the process.
Mr. Duff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think Mr. Patterson just did what you said I was guilty of earlier, because Mr. Patterson started by telling me that every individual will always think and act in their personal interest. But by the end of his discourse, he was saying for the nation. And here's what I'm saying.
Mr. Bishop,
here's what I'm saying.
Let me correct myself. Let me correct myself so that you
hold on. Let me hear him out first. Yes.
Let me correct myself, okay? Every individual will act in their personal self-interest, okay? And then even me, when I do, why am I doing what I'm doing? I want a better Jamaica for myself,
right.
My grandchildren.
Let me use an analogy to explain that. I do understand what you're saying, Mr. Patterson. So let me use a boat analogy. We are all on a rowboat, and this is a boat with oars. So we're all 20 of us on the boat, and we all want to go north, because we all on the boat live north. You will find that effortlessly everyone will row, because we all want to go north. Now, some could argue that we are rowing in our personal interest, while others would say, no, they are rowing for the interest of the boat, for that ship to get there. That's why the 20 of them are rowing. So the truth is, it would be both in that case, because they all would see benefit in rowing, because they want the boat to go north.
True.
So they are all acting for the group, but their direction will serve their personal interest.
That's true.
No, Mr. Patterson, I am saying to you, the commitment or the person, the individual that will save Jamaica will be someone who, I think, maybe like you, would travel and taste the luxuries of the world, and they would see the differences, and they would understand that struggle exists everywhere. So we're talking about Singapore. I am certain that Singapore's government has its challenges that it is working on now. We spoke about the US. The US government has their challenges that they're working on now. What I am saying is that we need to clearly outline the different facilities that we will have for the different positions. So I am not saying, Mr. Patterson, that I don't trust that you have Jamaica's best interest at heart. But I am saying, as we argue this new constitution, I know that your decision about dual citizenship is clouded based on the fact that you want to hold on to yours. You use the phrase that we should not punish well-thinking Jamaicans in the diaspora who might want to come back with the threat of saying you have to renounce your citizenship to that foreign country before you can serve in Jamaican parliament. And this is what I'm saying. We are not saying you have to renounce your your external citizenship in order to come here and take up some activism in politics or in Jamaica's politics. We're not saying you have to leave where you are. As I said, I would, and this is why I sounded conflicted, Mr. Duff, because in considering allowing 4 million people to vote in our national elections, to me, I would have to take more time to process it, Mr. Duff. But with that said, I am saying, I would not want to disenfranchise any of those members of the diaspora either. So on that point, I would be willing to do some more research, maybe listen to some more Jamaicans and put more consideration on that point.
Thank you.
But no, on the dual citizenship point, you cannot show me, Mr. Patterson, one single point or benefit that the country on a whole. So let us go back to those Jamaicans now who do not have any other, don't have a visa, don't have any other passport, any other citizenship. They will not get a single benefit from us legislating that the persons who represent them in politics are allowed to have dual citizenship. The dual citizenship will benefit the person, the individual, because at any time you can jump ship.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we have to move on. But let me just clarify that piece for you. The benefit to all Jamaicans of allowing dual citizen Jamaicans to serve in their governance is that they get the benefit of those persons serving. Now, you might not see that as a benefit. You might not see the competencies that they bring or anything like that, but I'm saying that's the value. In fact, let me put it this way by giving you an example of a multicultural country, a country that has done fairly well compared to many others. In Canada, any Canadian citizen may run for political office whether or not they have another citizenship or whether or not they were born in another country. So that's their decision. We may not like it, but they decided. Now, Canada, they have had prime ministers who have been dual citizens. They've also have prime ministers who were born outside of Canada. Now, they have experimented with this for 157 years. I believe they have done pretty well with having dual citizens in their parliament and in their governance and in their prime minister seat. I believe they've done fairly well compared to many countries. Canada has for many years been, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Petra, has been a #1 country in the world in terms of where people aspire to live and go. Many Jamaicans want to go there. Many Jamaicans go to school there and stay there. So they and those Jamaicans who go there, we've had Jamaicans who have served as senators, as MPs, councillors. So the Jamaicans who go there are fully welcomed in terms of participating in the governance model. At least they're not prevented by virtue of the Constitution if they wanted to participate. Okay, so that's 150 years of example we have. We can learn from it or not, but I believe Canada has figured out that it's wiser to be embracing of this wider consensus of people than to be very narrow in their focus. Now, Mr. Patriot pointed out earlier on that we can't afford to be so narrow. We're too small and we're even now declining. Go and check the population statistics. We're now declining in population. As I explained before, we have a higher concentration now of the wrong kinds of Jamaicans by virtue of the failing of our education system. The Canadians were wise not to limit themselves by law, but to leave it up to the people of Canada at the ballot box to decide if they want to elect a person who happens to have dual citizenship or who happens to have been born in another country, so long as they have Canadian citizenship. They have done that, and it has worked for them. In conclusion tonight, because we have to go now, I want to advise us to choose pragmatism over idealism. I believe we need to tap into the diaspora by allowing those with dual citizenship to serve our country in any and every capacity. It will do us more good than harm. We have enough evidence globally of countries who have done it different ways. We can learn from them. But what is very clear, Jamaica is too far down the rabbit hole of bad governance to deny itself the assistance of any Jamaican. Allow the diaspora to register and to vote by absentee ballots, similar to America. Allow dual citizens to offer themselves to serve in any office, similar to Canada. We must unite, we must liberate, we must empower every Jamaican by focusing on good governance now. We need to embrace all Jamaicans and create one Jamaica, united, strong, and free. And that's my closing call to action for us tonight. Thank you all so very much for joining us on this conversation. Look forward to a part 2. Want to thank all of you. Big up yourself. And before we go, just give us a rating now. If you think we did very well, give us 100%. If you think we did poorly, give us 1% or whatever. Just give us a rating so we know how we do. And we can know how to come back next time and wheel and come again and do even better. So if you agree with, if you love what happened tonight, give me 100. If you're so, give me 50. If you are disappointed, give us something less than 50. And the closer it is to 1, the more we're going to be worried. Everyone, have a good night. Until next time, one Jamaica, because we're stronger together.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Yes,
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bless up yourself, the bishop.
Big up.
One Jamaica TV.